In this edition of Southern Newsweek, soldiers from all over the South Island competed in a skill at arms competition. 2 southern right whales were spotted in Otago Harbour, and an Ashburton Vintage Car Club looks forward to celebrating 50 years. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. Soldiers from all over the South Island had to draw on their physical and mental reserves during an exhaustive 18-hour-long skill at arms test undertaken by the New Zealand Army in Dunedin recently. Designed to test their soldiering skills and military knowledge, the competition saw 45 Reserve Force soldiers from Otago, Southland and Christchurch striving to complete a variety of challenging tasks in just one day.
Starting at 4:30 in the morning, these soldiers faced a series of gruelling physical trials. Then, when their bodies were tired, the exercise controllers started challenging their minds, testing them on their knowledge of the Army, the weapons they use and their radio skills. Organiser Captain Duncan McEwen says the competition allows the unit to see where their soldiers are at performance-wise.
Well, it's what we exist to do. You know, we're here to feed regular force units and to provide support when they are deployed. And so we need to have a higher level as possible of soldier skills at individual and section level so that it enables our people to step up into those roles as required.
Testing their ability to perform and think under pressure, the soldiers also tackled a variety of tactical tests deep in the bush in Waitati after a route march that stretched tired muscles.
I haven't packed much in quite some time, so I did find it semi-difficult, but with the team, everyone behind me, you know, it was a great time. Everyone's supporting each other, and that's what the Army's all about.
Troops see the competition as both a physical and mental challenge and an opportunity to test their boundaries as soldiers. Lance Corporal Joshua Jacobs from Christchurch says it's a good team-building exercise, reinforcing the skills they have been learning.
It's been pretty good. It's definitely good team building. Reinforcing the skills that we've been practicing at night parades and other training activities. So yeah, it's good to see that those skills are being transitioned to a more competitive environment.
A section made up of soldiers from Dunedin, Invercargill and Cromwell eventually won the exhausting competition, which many found extremely challenging but very enjoyable. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And parents, pupils, school friends and teachers of Mayfield School have been busy planting native shrubs in a once disused part of the Canterbury School. Volunteers prepared an area behind the school buildings, laying down bark and creating paths using stones gathered from local farms. The garden's design was planned out a few weeks ago, ahead of the planting which took place recently. Mayfield school teacher Anna Vo says Dale Smith of Smithscapes Landscaping has been a huge help. And 2 southern right whales have been spotted in Otago Harbour recently. The mother and calf were first seen near Deborah Bay, just past Port Chalmers, on Saturday afternoon. Any spare section of road or grass between Carries Bay and Pulling Point was taken with parked cars and onlookers, mesmerised by the rare visitors to the harbour. Those lucky enough to have a boat or yacht at their disposal were given a close encounter with the giant mammals as they swam about 300 metres from shore. The sighting comes just weeks after a humpback whale was spotted in the same area. Royal Albatross Centre Operations Manager Chris McCormick says whale sightings have become more frequent in the past few years, with both humpbacks and southern right whales the most commonly seen. A donation of honey is helping a class at Waitahuna School learn about ecology and wildlife. The school has teamed up with a local beekeeper to sell honey as a fundraiser and spruce up the school garden.
There are few things that are stickier for Waitahuna school pupils at the moment. They've been selling locally grown honey to raise funds for the school after they were given some by a local beekeeper. Teacher Claire Blackmore says the children have become fascinated with bees and honey.
Our children have been marketing some local honey and learning about bees in a way to attract local wildlife to the garden.
Local apiarist and former pupil Dana Young is lending a hand to get the class started with their project. He's given the contents of 3 hives to the school, which has raised about $1,000 from the sales.
I was able to donate a little bit of honey for the kids this year to develop their own brand and learn about the marketing side of the honey business.
The money raised will go towards buying native plants and fruit trees to attract more bees and native birds to the school. In Dunedin for the South Today.
Mid-Canterbury is set to be awash with vintage cars next Easter weekend as the Ashburton branch of the Vintage Car Club celebrate their 50th anniversary. And to make it a special event, the club are hosting the Vintage Car Club of New Zealand's national South Island Easter Rally.
The Ashburton Vintage Car Club has grown from humble beginnings to a sub-branch of the Christchurch Club. Membership has grown steadily since the 1970s, and today more than 250 keen enthusiasts hold regular car rallies and meetings at the club's rooms in Tynwald. The jewel in the crown is its motoring museum, with a wide assortment of veteran and vintage cars and motorcycles on display.
We have approximately 35 veteran vintage cars and motorcycles, and some of these cars are very rare cars.
Rarities on show include a rare 1923 Lorraine Dietrich, one of only two in New Zealand, a 1929 Plymouth Deluxe Coupe, a 1913 Unique and a 1906 Cadillac. There are also a number of motorcycles on display, including this 1912 Kinnick side valve motorbike that has been in the same Ashburton family for more than 100 years. All that history and heritage is set to be showcased next Easter weekend, when the club marks its 50th anniversary by hosting the Vintage Car Club of New Zealand's national South Island Easter Rally. In Ashburton for the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, Ashburton woman Hilary Singlewood shaves her head for charity. And PhD and Master's students embraced a chance to present their thesis topics in edible form at the University of Otago. Welcome back. Ashburton woman Hilary Singlewood has had her head shaved for charity, with the money she raised going to the Cancer Society. That was a fast one.
Yeah. 0 to 10.
If you've got a good idea about what to do with the old Sims building in Port Chalmers, then the Dunedin City Council wants to hear from you. It's hoping interested parties will come forward with some practical suggestions about what to do with the building which lies abandoned on the port.
I changed my mind.
It took Hilary Singlewood 3 years to grow her tresses, but it only took hairdressers Lynn Bartlett and Nicole Cavill minutes to get it off at Snap Fitness in Ashburton. Surrounded by friends and supporters, Hilly sat while her hair was separated into braids, then cut off, and then out came the razor. Hilary Singlewood has battled cancer, and so has her sister and friends. The exact amount raised hasn't been worked out yet, but she had a band of supporters cheering her on.
You'll think you're in bed with a man tomorrow.
And she says it's been years since she had short hair.
How does it feel?
A bit drafty now, she's brushing it.
Eventually, Hilary's golden tresses will be used to make wigs for cancer patients. In Ashburton for South Today.
If you've got a good idea about what to do with the old Sims building in Port Chalmers, then the Dunedin City Council wants to hear from you. It's hoping interested parties will come forward with some practical suggestions about what to do with the building which lies abandoned on the port.
The century-old Sims engineering building in Port Chalmers has been abandoned for a number of years, but its future is in doubt, with a new report suggesting the former foundry has some serious structural issues. Now the call has gone out for any ideas from the public.
And we're looking for expressions of interest for this building. So it's a pretty interesting building, and we're looking for individuals or organisations to come forward and to let us know what uses there may be for the future of this building.
She says they're hoping interested parties will come up with some good suggestions about what to do with the building.
Open to anything that comes with the wherewithal and the resources and the money to make it happen, yes.
The council will be holding consultation drop-ins at the Port Chalmers markets, library and in the Four Square, and are looking for good solid financial ideas.
And we're not asking for a huge amount of detail at this point in time. It's just a 2-page form that people have to fill in, and then from that the ideas will go to the West Harbour Community Board, and then those ideas that are of interest to Community Board will come and talk with Community Board members, and from there it'll process through.
People can have their say until the end of the month, but the council says ideas need to be realistic, as they're adamant ratepayers won't be footing the bill. In Dunedin for South Today.
And PhD and Master's students got a chance to represent their thesis topics in edible form at the University of Otago recently. The inaugural Bake Your Thesis event is designed to promote creative ways of explaining student research.
A unique way of depicting what could be mistaken for otherwise dry academic research. Postgraduate students serving up their PhD thesis in the form of food at Otago University. Deanna Beckett's lollycake creation illustrating her area of expertise, oral science.
This is a representation of my thesis, which is about intergenerational global health. So here we have the daddy tooth, which is a 6-year-old permanent molar. Here we have the mummy tooth, which is slightly smaller, doesn't have a wee Carabelli's cusp. And down here we have a baby primary tooth. Together they represent intergenerational oral health.
Bake Your Thesis is a new event for the annual Graduate Research Festival. It's intended to promote creativity as students try and promote their research, although a closer study of Beckett's cake reveals more about the oral health of the teeth's owners.
If you look closely, you can see that poor daddy tooth's got a hole in the side, but he can't afford to get that fixed. Mum's having a few problems with brushing her OP fissure, but overall the baby seems to be doing not too bad.
And the irony of using a sugary treat to promote oral health wasn't lost on her either.
I did suggest in my little write-up about how appropriate it was to use lollycake to represent oral health, but I think it actually looks quite cool.
Students from a wide array of departments, including anatomy, tourism and physiotherapy, were all given the chance to talk through their culinary creations, with judging based on taste as well as digestible academic information. In Dunedin, the South today.
A Tyree College band is set to battle it out in New Zealand's biggest nationwide all-original music event. The Mosgiel-based high school band Bark Like a Dog have gone through to the national final of this year's Smoke-Free Rock Quest in Auckland.
Another step closer to fame and fortune. Tyree College band Bark Like a Dog fine-tuning their performance as they prepare to head off to Auckland to compete in the national Smoke-Free Rock Quest finals. The band is made up of Alex Cochrane on guitar, Matthew Reid on bass and Josh Glennie on guitar and vocals. Cochrane says the band has grown up admiring past Rock Quest winners.
We've been doing it since year 7. And it's always been the thing that, like, wow, there's the big national final, and it was always like the bands in the national final were like the bands you thought were going to actually do something like well in, you know, the music industry.
This year's Rock Quest attracted over 800 acts to the regional heats and finals across the country. Just 6 bands have made it to the big dance, including this Mosgiel trio.
Now being in it, it's like sort of, I don't know, we didn't really consider ourselves as good as, like, you know, some of the bands who we've seen in the past.
The band has acquired a large following, especially after one of its singles reached #1 on the New Zealand iTunes charts last year. But Cochrane says the secret to their success is staying true to the music they like.
We're just making music that we like and just expressing ourselves, really, and then, I don't know, I guess people seem to like it.
Bark Like a Dog will battle it out against 5 other national finalists in Auckland in September. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, star Otago horse Jack Frost headed to Christchurch to compete at the Grand National Racing Carnival, and Dunedin joins in the celebrations of World Breastfeeding Week. Welcome back. Star Otago horse Jack Frost is travelling to Christchurch this weekend to compete at the time-honoured Grand National Racing Carnival. North Tyree trainers Brian and Shane Anderton have him primed for his return to Riccarton, where he starred in 2 spectacular wins at the same meeting last year.
Jack Frost meets his namesake on a crisp morning at Wingatui Racecourse earlier today. The horse is having one of his last training runs before heading to the Grand National Carnival in Christchurch this weekend. Jack Frost will return to the hurdle course at Riccarton the Saturday before running in the time-honoured Grand National Hurdles there on Wednesday. Trainers Brian and Shane Anderton have the horse primed and ready to go.
He's fit and he's rearing to go at the moment. He's he's stripping pretty fit now, so he's test match time coming up, so he's ready to go.
Jack Frost has run in the top 2 placings in his 3 hurdle starts this winter. In the latest of those, he ran a solid second at Timaru, behind one of his main grand national hurdle rivals, the Energizer.
He's been going good races, and I'm quite happy with him. The other day at Timaru, he ran a good second. And it's slow track, which would probably be improved a bit, and he's sort of probably not as hard as what the Energizer was there. So hopefully, turn the tails next week.
Jack Frost burst onto the New Zealand jumps racing scene when winning twice at last year's Grand National Carnival. He returns to Riccarton a stronger racehorse with the benefit of a full winter of jumping behind him this year.
Well, he's probably put on a lot more weight this time round. He sort of only got him at the tail end of last year, so by the time we got him a jumping ticket and that, he was pretty good for a syndicate horse. He was hardly out of the money, and he'd done a lot in a short time.
Jack Frost clashes with talented types the Shackler, Laykeeper and Go-Go Gonzo in the Sydenham hurdles late Saturday morning. Johnny Turner for the South Today.
And a dedicated follower of the world's best map makers has designed his own guide to Dunedin's bus routes. Sam van der Weerden is an avid fan of transportation, and he claims his are better than what the Otago Regional Council supplies to travellers.
As work on Dunedin's bus hub continues, one local student believes he's made a better map of the city's bus routes than the Otago Regional Council. Sam van der Weerden is a mathematics student at Otago University and says the council's map simply doesn't add up.
Well, if you try to navigate off it, you'll fail. It's not... Yeah. As an instrument for finding out where to go and what buses to take, I wouldn't say it's too flash.
At A5 size, the Otago Regional Council's guide booklet is pretty easy to handle. But van der Weerden says it's unreliable and hard to follow. And while map making is just a hobby for him, his efforts have attracted the council's attention.
It's on my blog, publicly available, and I've had a couple of comments from them. So
What kind of comments from them?
Just things like it would be cool to have some sort of conversation about it or something.
But frustrated busgoers shouldn't lose faith. Van der Weerden believes the next bus route map the ORC is working on will be a big improvement.
The one that they're working on, the next one, is probably going to be a lot better than mine.
Which is good news for the city's commuters, as they can look forward to an improved bus service in more ways than one. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Breastfeeding is being celebrated around the world as part of World Breastfeeding Week. Dunedin's Plaza Cafe has joined in, offering feeding mums a free muffin or scone recently with every drink purchased.
Breastfeeding in a supportive environment. These mums are taking part in a morning tea at Dunedin's Plaza Cafe to mark World Breastfeeding Week. Loz Barwick says there's a real need for more designated baby feeding areas.
I think there needs to be more spaces in public centres that we can feed our bubs. I know there's maybe a section near the library, but I struggled to find easy places to relax and feed in.
She says while it's a challenge to master breastfeeding, the results are worth it.
Really hard times. It probably took me about 6 weeks, even 2 months to really get the hang of breastfeeding, and I'm really glad I persisted. There's a lot of techniques and support I needed. It's amazing.
The Dunedin Breastfeeding Network are also planning other events to mark the week. In Dunedin for the South Today.
2 new artefacts have been donated to the Port Chalmers Maritime Museum. The new acquisitions included the bell from the cargo ship MV Port Chalmers and a replica of the first container ship to visit the port.
Looking exactly like the first refrigerated container ship to berth at Port Chalmers, the Columbus America was a sister ship to Columbus, New Zealand, which first visited Otago in 1971. The Port Chalmers Historical Society say the model is a valuable addition to the Maritime Museum.
It was donated because we had no model at all pertaining to container ships, so it now fills the gap for us, and because it's taking pride of place here in the Port Chalmers Maritime Museum.
Another new acquisition is the engine room bell from the MV Port Chalmers, a cargo ship that regularly visited the harbour. The local school and ship struck up a long-lasting relationship.
The Port Chalmers, MV Port Chalmers used to come here to do its cargo line, and it had adopted Port Chalmers School, and every time the boat came to Port Chalmers, the school were invited on board to meet it.
Following the boat's decommission in the 1960s, this bell was donated to the school.
Gary Bain, who was the teacher at the school, who was actually my next door neighbour when I was a wee boy, and he asked, could we have an artefact from the boat as a souvenir, and so they gave him the engine room bell to the school.
Along with the bell, the model of the container ship helps provide valuable links to Port Chalmers' maritime history. In Dunedin for the South Today.
And finally, the country's first driving simulator to give foreign visitors a chance to safely prepare for some of New Zealand's challenging roads has been launched in Queenstown. Go Rentals has unveiled the driving simulator, which was developed by Dunedin-based business Co-Driver.
The man behind the invention, Otago rally driver Rhys Gardner, showcasing the simulator his company spent more than 3 years developing.
We started with teenagers, which we're still working with now, but we quickly got pulled into helping our visitors to adjust to New Zealand roads, which is cool.
The simulator's been designed to give rental car drivers a realistic on-road experience and allow them to improve their skills in a bid to reduce the number of crashes nationwide.
It's a great piece of Kiwi ingenuity, and there's quite a long story behind where we've got to, and Rhys has certainly been working on this over a number of years, and yeah, we're really proud to bring it to market. It's fantastic.
It's not compulsory for overseas drivers to use the simulator when renting a vehicle, but now they'll at least have the chance. And although the project is aimed at rental car users, Gardner says learner drivers could also benefit from the simulator.
Yeah, we think we're building a great platform for driver training across the board. Obviously we need to support our teenagers who probably don't get the level of training and car control that we really should have in New Zealand.
The simulators are set to be installed at other Go Rentals branches across the country over the next year, and while the project has been independently funded from the start, Gardner says they're on the lookout for other funding options. In Dunedin, the South Today.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook, or keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.